This is the scariest sound you will hear when you live in a communist country. This is the last sound my parents heard when their fathers were taken away in the middle of the night, and they never saw their loved ones again.
And that is the voice of Captain Hung Cao, who's going to join me. He's running for the United States Senate in the great Commonwealth of Virginia, and he's on the phone with me right now. Captain Cao, thank you very much for your service in uniform, and thanks so much for spending a few minutes with us tonight.
No, sir, it's my pleasure, and thank you so much for having me on here again.
I'm glad to do it. I've got to tell you something. We talk to a lot of political candidates on this show, and I'm happy to talk to Democrats. We always invite them. They just never show up. Well, every once in a while we get a Democrat, but I think it's only by, I don't know, if you try hard enough every once in a while, one of them decides he can survive a tough question or two. But when I saw that video that you put up, and that's just a tiny slice of a couple of minutes of it, I thought it was one of the most bold statements by any political candidate I'd seen. And which strikes me as that's one of the things I wanted to ask you about is you are the kind of candidate who says things straight out, and you don't just try to circumvent the truth and give us some soft sell. You were saying, look, this is your freedom going away. Welcome to the program, and tell everyone who's listening about why you want to replace Senator Tim Kaine.
Well, sir, I came here as a refugee from Vietnam, and this country gave me everything. It gave me education. It gave me opportunity. I went to the United States Naval Academy. I have a master's in physics, and I went to Harvard and MIT under fellowships. You know, but I paid back this country with everything I had in 25 years of special operations in the United States Navy, fighting in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Somalia. But it's scary to see this country turn into what I ran away from. And this is just as a wake-up call to Americans, like it's time for us to fight back.
Well, you say this country gave you, except that when you came here as a refugee, nobody gives away spots at Annapolis, do they? You have to earn that. You had to earn your way in there, didn't you?
Yes, sir. I earned my way here just like my parents earned their way, toiling in America for 50 years. And, nothing's handed to us. I mean, the American dream is there for everyone, but you still have to roll up your sleeves and work for it.
Well, the other thing I admire about you, Captain Cao, is that you didn't say, okay, I'm going to Annapolis, I'll get the degree in physics. That's a lot of work as well. And then I'll do the minimum term that's required of me as a graduate of one of the service academies. And then I'll go out and, I can be successful in the private sector. You did 25 years, and you did it in special operations.
Yes, sir. I mean, I really left after the fall of Kabul. I mean, I was there in January 2021. And it was pretty stable when we left there. I mean, it's not, it's definitely not downtown Portland, but, it's stable enough. And then when Joe Biden came in and caused all that chaos and then caused 13 service members to be killed, I was like, what are we doing? And so that's why I dropped out, and I just decided to run for Congress last year. And, as a last-minute add-in, and, we beat 11 people in the primary, and then we went against a very entrenched Democrat in an area where Joe Biden won by 19 points, and we took it down to less than 6 points.
That's quite a victory in and of itself. By the way, I'm talking to Captain Hung Cao, retired U.S. Navy and Special Operations, running for the U.S. Senate in the great Commonwealth of Virginia. Let's talk about some of the practical issues, and let's start with where you started with the video and what you mentioned a moment ago. And that is, we're losing our country, but we're losing it, as Lincoln feared, from the inside out. Why is this happening? Why are we seeing Americans, especially young Americans, saying, let's go to socialism, it's a great program, let's sell out to all these other interests instead of actually staying the kind of proud country that we could be?
I think it's a combination of things. It's just, COVID definitely accelerated that. But when you give kids everything without making them work hard for it, it's the TikTok generation. It's also the reset generation. They play Nintendo. They don't like something. They press reset. And we need to teach kids that, sometimes there's failure, and you can learn more from failure than you do from success at times.
So tell me about this. Bidenomics is punishing Americans. And in some ways, I kind of expected that I would see more anger, and not necessarily anger, but more people who are fed up with the idea that prices are going to go up, gas is going to go up, groceries are going to go up, and there's no end to it. And the current president says, hey, everything's going great. In fact, just today, Kamala Harris is saying Joe Biden is our champion for bringing down prices. prices haven't come down anywhere. They're 17% higher than when he took the oath of office. But somehow, people like Harris and Biden are getting away with gaslighting the entire American population.
No, you're absolutely right. They raised the price of gas up to $5 a gallon, and then you drop it down to $4 and say, hey, look, I reduced it by $1. I mean, Americans need to just wake up. I think there's a silent majority out there that's really sick and tired. I think that 2024 is going to show that.
So what are you going to do to win this race? Because I think most people don't even remember that Tim Kaine once was a vice presidential running mate. But why Virginia would choose him to represent their interests, I don't know. But he was the choice. Now I want to see what you need to do to be able to get the majority in the Commonwealth.
I'll be honest with you. Most Virginians don't even know who Tim Kaine is. The only thing they remember is he got stuck on I-95 during a snowstorm with a bottle of Dr. Pepper. But remember that Tim Kaine was supposed to be on the short list to be Obama's running mate. But he was so terrible as a governor that he was passed over for Joe Biden. Like, how bad do you have to be passed over for Joe Biden? But, you know, Tim Kaine hasn't done anything for Virginia, and I'm reminding Virginia that they deserve somebody that's going to fight for them, that believes in the same values of God, family, and country. And that's what we're going to go out and show everybody.
I'm talking to Captain Hung Cao, who's running for the U.S. Senate in the great Commonwealth of Virginia. Let me ask you about the border issues, because do you have a slightly different perspective on border issues, having come here legally as a legal immigrant to the United States? And help me understand why so many people in this country who are legal immigrants have not risen up in great anger that they did all the work to make it happen and do it the right way. And now Joe Biden has invited 9 million in the last 2.5 years to come in illegally.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's just, look, when you stand in line at Costco or something, and someone cuts in line, you get pretty mad. I mean, you can't expect the American dream if the first thing you're going to do is break the American laws. You have to embrace the American laws. And, you know, my family waited in line for 7 years for us to get that certificate that says, welcome to the United States. And you know, and people are just circumventing this. And not only that, we have to remember that 85,000 children are missing that have been smuggled across the border for God knows what. It could be sex trafficking. It could be for modern day slavery, but they can't account for 85,000 children. So this is a humanitarian crisis that we need to take care of. And also, you know, in 2006, I was on the border. No, I'm sorry, 2004. I was in the border at the in El Centro looking for a nuke that was smuggled across the border by they believe it was a couple of Chinese
a nuclear weapon.
Yes, sir. That's so I was down there with the FBI, and we were looking for possible nukes, you know, that was being smuggled across the border. This is during President Bush's second inauguration. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I mean, right now we have military-aged men from China coming across. Yes, sir. I mean, you know, look, you and I know geography, and China is not in the southern border. So how did they get there?
Well, and you see this probably that they are not surrogates for it, but they're the foot soldiers for the Chinese communists coming into our country at the behest of Joe Biden. Absolutely.
He's just saying, hey, come on in, you know, and, you know, they're spying on us. They're taking away our intellectual property. They're taking away a lot of military secrets. And so we need to protect our country. The federal government's main job is to provide for common defense and promote the general welfare, and we're not doing that.
Captain Cao, it's a pleasure to talk to you. We'll talk to you again. We want to give you all the help we can. Would you mind telling my audience where they can find you on social media to check out your campaign for Senate in Virginia?
Yes, sir. It's hung at VA at Hung for VA, or go hung4va.com, and you'll find everything you need. And again, it's going to take money. Again, Tim Kaine was the bag man for the DNC.
Yeah, absolutely. Captain Cao, thanks for your service in uniform. 25 years in the United States Navy, graduate of the Naval Academy at Annapolis. Captain Hung Cao running for the U.S. Senate in Virginia. Can you imagine getting rid of Tim Kaine? Tim Kaine, who I'm sure when Joe Biden is impeached is going to vote for acquittal when it shows up in the Senate. You're listening to the Lars Larson Show.